Is the Ahmadiyya Muslim community a cult? The question is, how do you define what a cult is? Do you define loyalty and devotion to something or someone as cultish? Because in that regard, then the followers and adherents of any religion or spiritual guide ever would necessarily be members of a cult. Or do you define obedience to that thing or that being or that organization as cultish? Because in that sense, then the employees or the staff members or the volunteers of any organization throughout history would necessarily be cult members. So are we going to start now saying that the members of any organization throughout history, throughout time, or the adherents or the followers of any religion throughout time are cult members? No, of course, that's preposterous. There are two fundamental places where this allegation of cult comes from. When people see unbridled and all-encompassing obedience, and when they see unbridled and all-encompassing love. And actually it's because of a failure to understand, comprehend, and to recognize these two fundamental pillars within society that this allegation comes about. What do I mean? When we look at this concept of obedience, this unbridled, unraveled obedience, utter obedience, we see the fact that many Ahmadi Muslims will jump when their caliph, when their Khalifa says to jump. When the Khalifa says to do something, Ahmadi Muslims are ready to lay down their lives. At this, people say, is that not cultish behavior? And what they are actually looking at is this concept of utter obedience. But in reality, when we look at this concept, look at any organization across the world. When you are signing up to a service, when you are trying to attain a benefit from an organization, be that in terms of money, be that in terms of employment, to improve your skills, or indeed to improve yourself in spirituality, you do so by taking that benefit and agreeing to adhere by a set of rules, a code of conduct, do's and don'ts, which defines the character and the ethos of that organization, but also the members within that organization. Of course, this happens of your own free volition, of your own free will. You see something, you agree to it, you sign up to it, and then you abide by those regulations. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is no different. Seeing the mission and the goals of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, by seeing the message of the promised Messiah and indeed of the caliphs of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, one says that yes, that's something that I agree with, that's something that I ascribe to. And having seen that and saying, yes, that's something that I wish to be part of, they then adhere to those rules and regulations. Of course, at any time, if someone wishes to remove themselves from that ascription, from that adherence to that way of life, they are of course entitled to do so, in which situation those rules and regulations no longer apply to them. So how is that any way cultish? Indeed, the employees of any company around the world, in which company do we say that the staff members do not need to adhere to the company policy, do not need to listen to the instructions of the CEO or the chairman? In which army of the world can a soldier stand up and say, actually no, I don't agree with that order? If you don't agree, you are free to leave. So how is the Ahmadiyya Muslim community any different? On the other side, we see this concept of unbridled love, this devotion, this loyalty. How in any way can this be called cultish? If we are saying that the adoration, the love, the admiration, and the wish and the will to emulate someone's example because of how beautiful that person's character or nature is cultish, then where do we draw the line? Is a young girl emulating her mother cultish? Is a person who looks at something online and says, I really like the way that this person behaves, is that cultish? The fact of the matter is that if an individual looks at someone and says, this is a man of God, his character, his way of life is something that makes me want to change myself. That you see that there is benefit in it for you, for your family, for your friends, and the world around you. And then you wish to take that and emulate it in yourself. How can that be cultish? If we are talking about displays of loyalty and love, where do we stop? The religious founders, the prophets of throughout time, when they brought a message of God, the people around them were transformed and transfixed to that person's character. Look at the example of the companions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of God be upon him, where they would not let single drops of water fall when he was performing the ablution to fall on the floor. They would catch it. Is that, God forbid, cultish? Of course not. This sprouts and comes from an area of pristine love and pure love. In no way could this be called cultish. And so when Ahmadi Muslims show loyalty and love to the Caliph, when they show loyalty and love to those people that have resulted in immediate and beneficial change in their life and the world around them, how can somebody call this cultish? Yet despite all of this, once we've understood that an individual does so of his own free will, can leave at any time, does so for his own benefit and for the benefit of the world around him, stays within the confines of the law and shows his adoration and love for a person of God. Despite this, if an individual still wishes to stubbornly insist, having misunderstood all of the facts, that this is, God forbid, in some way cultish, it no doubt says a lot more about the person raising the allegation than the person against whom this accusation is made.